Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Fowler, ryanfowlersos.com. There is my email right there. I put that there for a good reason because we're going to be reviewing a report, but I'm just going to be summarizing bits of it. If you want the whole report, email me. I will gladly send you the PDF version. So, what am I getting into today? I'm giving a brief technical overview of a type of a memory reconsolidation protocol I use called the Unified Schema Reconsolidation System. So, first off, what is memory reconsolidation? Well, it is a neuroscience term. It is a brain mechanism discovered by a group of researchers and scientists at New York University about 26 years ago. And what it basically is when you have an emotional learning or an emotional memory in your brain. These are called schemas. It could be psychological trauma too, but these are like early childhood emotional learnings. They're literally core beliefs tied to feelings. When you arouse the emotion tied to that belief, it actually makes the whole system like from hard clay to soft clay, labile, malleable. You can literally reshape it. So, what most psychotherapeutic approaches are doing now is they're not touching these early, deep core belief, identity level, emotional memories and learnings. What they're doing, because they don't know how to. Cognitive behavioral therapy came along 30, 40 years before memory reconsolidation was even known that the brain could change in that way. There's only one modality besides what I do that explicitly uses this neuroscience mechanism that was discovered. What normal therapies do is they build new learnings on top of the old ones that compete with and suppress the old ones, but the old learnings are still there, beliefs tied to feelings, and under pressure, the negative ones that are maladaptive that cause all sorts of problems, they still raise their ugly head. No matter how much you do coaching or these other therapies, they can still come up because they're still there and cause problems. We rewire that at the source. So old negative learnings that cause lots of problems are just not there anymore. Instead, you have optimal, emotional, deep subconscious learnings that are there. So I'm going to share this with you briefly. Talk just real quick, brief technical summary of what my modality, the parts of my modality is comprised of. And then this report gives you a ton of resource and links to actually show the science underpinning this all. Some of you watching this may be psychologists or coaches in the executive coaching space. How does this even help executive coaching? Well, one of the biggest bottlenecks to coaching is internal resistance in clients. The internal resistance is blame shifting, avoidant behavior, what's called the knowing doing gap. Very well done. They know what to do, and under pressure, they just don't do it. They choke. They are resistant to coaching. Maybe they avoid accountability, procrastinating, imposter syndrome. All this, they have negative beliefs that make them more prone to burnout and make recovery slower, and they tend to burn out more. There's a book, Immunity to Change, published by Harvard Press. So was The Knowing Doing Gap. They're both published by Harvard Press, Harvard researchers. Coaching is trying to get people to have new behaviors, new skills that they actually implement, they don't just know about. And the client is trying to do it, but something inside of them is resisting it. Well, that is these negative schemas, and I resolve that. And it doesn't take long. Most of my clients, 3 sessions or less. They are deep sessions, but we are using memory reconsolidation to literally rewire at the source these root learnings that are causing all these problems. They're gone when I'm done, mostly or completely. At least the major ones. There could be a lot of little ones, but we get all the big ones out. They are literally updated with new optimal core beliefs. And we call these core beliefs tied to emotional memories, we call them schemas. So if you want a client that's difficult to coach, if you want them much more coachable, you want it so that your coaching lands, your coaching sticks, that the client is now doing what he should be doing, even under pressure. He's not reverting back to old patterns. This is the key for most clients. What you perceive as a difficulty in coaching, it resolves it so they will become the good client who implements what you learn and they durably use it and they don't choke under pressure. This solves that problem. And it just optimizes their subconscious so that they just perform better across the board. Real quick, here's a report. And the things I was just talking about, we're on one of the last pages here of the report. These are the books: Immunity to Change and Knowing Doing Gap. This report does go over what memory reconsolidation is, talks about the early research. My system that I developed, USRS, Unified Schema Reconsolidation System. Memory reconsolidation is the core of it to get rid of these negative schemas, install new optimal ones. But there are a lot of ways memory reconsolidation can fail, meaning a practitioner is trying to do this deep rewiring, and there's a lot of ways it can get screwed up and fail and not occur. This system addresses all those known failure points to get your client unstuck. So now coaching works. So now they're not immune to change. They're not resistant to change. This makes sure that happens more reliably and consistently than any other method I'm aware of. And there's only one other method called coherence therapy, which actually that explicitly uses memory reconsolidation, is trying to target it. Here's the 6 components of what I do. You first have to accurately map out what is the negative schema that we need to change. We have to accurately in high definition. You end up writing out a paragraph that describes the belief and the feeling and all of that. But there's a belief elicitation method I use for that. You need to put the nervous system in safety mode when you're actually making the change, because in order to make this deep change, you need to arouse negative and often painful emotions that are tied to the maladaptive schemas that are screwing everything up for your client, making them resistant to change. So you need to put them in safety mode so the nervous system can feel the negative emotions and still feel safe. So you don't have dissociation, overwhelm, other defense mechanisms come online. Because if those come online, it frustrates the process and memory reconsolidation doesn't occur. So we first accurately map out what needs to change as it actually is in the brain. It's the actual belief in the brain. If you don't know what you're changing, you're not going to change it. You have to accurately know. And then there are what are called pro-symptom positions. They're also called protective parts. There's a modality called internal family systems, very well established, talks about that. We actually have subpersonalities that want to protect these deep schemas. The subpersonalities think these deep schemas need to be there to keep us safe and protect us, when in actuality, they inhibit growth. They cause all sort of maladaptive behaviors. And so we have to resolve these pro-symptom positions. I use a method called Gestalt in hypnosis to take these subpersonalities and basically make it so that they see, oh, I don't need to interfere. It's okay to let this negative belief go. This is another very big failure point that we resolve with my method. And then cognitive filter down regulation through clinical hypnosis. It's proven. This is not woohoo. Hypnosis puts the brain in a certain state that facilitates change, accelerates neuroplasticity, and memory reconsolidation is a type of neuroplasticity. It facilitates access to your emotions, emotional memory recall, makes your brain more cognitively flexible, some other things and that is all helpful to the actual memory reconsolidation. But all this other stuff is preventing this from failing, memory reconsolidation, making sure it happens, and enhancing the effect, deepening the effect. About 30% of the 5-6 hour session is done in hypnosis. And then we are literally getting rid of old beliefs and updating them with new ones. The new ones are then reinforced post session through, this is where kind of CBT self-talk training comes in, self-talk restructuring. We don't want a lot of criticism undoing the good stuff we put in. And then self-hypnosis audios to reinforce the newly installed beliefs, hypnotic suggestion. So that is the major components of what I'm doing. Memory reconsolidation is real. It's well established. There are, articles published in Nature. Here's a research here. Bruce Ecker, coherence therapy is the first explicit memory reconsolidation protocol that causes memory reconsolidation to occur. I consider what I do adding to that, unlocking the emotional brain, his other articles, etc. Everything here is supporting the concepts I'm using and how they all work together to again, hypnosis is a real thing. It has a certain effect. I'm using it very specifically. These are really good. Dr. David Spiegel, associate chair of psychiatry at Stanford, actual brain scans of people under hypnosis talking about the effect. This article does talk about the actual effect of the brain on hypnosis, what's actually happening. Cognitive executive filter, down regulation, self-monitoring, down regulated, increased connection to emotional recall and awareness and access. So here's it all, polyvagal therapy. So here is everything to really get an understanding of the science behind every component of what I'm doing and how it all works together. And I hope you have kind of a better overall concept from a scientific, technical standpoint of what I'm doing. Really, you just have to look at the results. I have tons of case studies that I'm happy to share with you as well. I'm happy to share everything, happy to prove this. If you're an executive coach, I'm happy to prove it risk free. Um, so I hope you found this useful, and maybe this is a diving point to really dive deep and get into some really exciting stuff. So thank you for watching.